Friends, if you're watching this video, that's what I consider you to be, a friend. I wanted to share something with you that's going on and ask for your help. First, let me just tell you, back in 1985, my wife and I first felt called to launch out in ministry. And we were going to go from Florida to El Paso, Texas, and join a ministry called Christ is the Answer out there. And we'd have to live in a bus, which we converted to an RV. And we were going to preach the gospel to Mexican people. And so we didn't know anything about how you make a living doing that. And we just called together a group of our friends and said, hey, friends, this is what we think God wants us to do. And those of you who know us, you know how God's been working in our lives and everything. And so the only thing we know to do is to ask you to consider supporting us. Thank God enough people felt touched by the Lord and they started helping us. And we were able to live that way for just shy of 20 years. We started off with 2 little kids. We ended up raising 4 kids and working in Christ is the Answer, and then working in YWAM, and later I worked in a group called Teams Commission for Christ International and another group called Mission Ventures. So I've been in 4 missionary organizations, and I have worked as a pastor of La Viña in El Paso in Northeast, and then I was the pastor of a little Hispanic church over in Lakeland, Florida. And now I'm pastoring a little Spanish church called Pan de Vida here in Beverly Hills, near our home, not far away. And during that time, I've traveled to just all kinds of countries in ministry, and I've done all kinds of evangelism and teaching and preaching and just whatever the Lord gave me to do. And basically, we've lived off of that kind of support. People would give us monthly. One family gave us $5 a month. And other people would give us 100 or give us 20. Over the years, we got a few churches to help us. One time we had as many as 4 churches. That's the most we ever had. We never made a lot, but we got what we needed. And during that time, I would sometimes do secular jobs. I'd paint houses, or I painted every church I've ever pastored. And my wife actually worked for 10 years during that time and helped us. But, you know, we lived by asking folks to just search their hearts and see if God would have them, you know, contribute to us and see if they would, you know, believe in the ministry that God had given us. And so God was faithful all those years. Now, when I became pastor of Jesus Chapel out in El Paso, I told all my supporters, you don't have to support us anymore. We got a salary here. So all that dropped off. And we haven't received support like that, except from some folks who, of the goodness of their heart and because the Lord was leading them, some folks over the years have never ceased giving. And back when I was in seminary, we had some folks from El Paso who gave very faithfully, and that's how we made it through that time. Plus, we took student loans out. So now I have a $60,000 student loan debt that we're paying off. But we're doing ministry again, and basically I'm full-time in ministry now. I want to just explain to you how that happened. Some of you know, but in case you don't, I went to Regent University and got my Master's of Divinity, and I was just working at home diligently, studying, reading hundreds of pages, writing papers constantly, you know, for 2.5 years. And then just about the time I finished and graduated, my wife was doing this line dance class in like a retirement community. And the lady who was instructing it, my wife had told her that I was a pastor. So she said to her one day, so your husband's a pastor or something like that? And my wife said, yeah. And she says, do you think you could come and help us? Well, what's the deal? Well, turns out that the church had been declining for years, really. And then they hired a secretary, and she ripped them off for 20-some thousand. And all of a sudden, they discovered they really didn't have enough money to keep paying the pastor, so he left. So they had no pastor. They didn't have much money. You know, would I come over and just advise them or counsel them or something? They needed help. So I went over there and I met with these folks, and I said, "So what kind of church is this? You know, are you Methodist? Are you Baptist? What? You know, do you have a statement of faith?" And you just wouldn't believe it. It was amazing. the oldest, the senior elder said to me, look, don't worry about our religious views. We're all old and set in our ways, and we're not going to change our thinking anyway. We just want to know, can you come here and hold services? You know, can you bring people back to this church? Or can you tell us how to do it? I tried to get them hooked up with this interim pastor ministry group that I'd heard about, but the interim pastor ministry interviewed them on the phone. They said, you don't have enough money. Just close the doors. You can't make it. And so they said that group you put us in touch with, they said, we don't have enough money. They can't send us a pastor. What do we do? And I said, well, you need somebody that'll do it by faith. And they said, do it by faith? What does that mean? Like, where would we get a person like that? And I was like, well, it means you trust God, and you need a person who would trust God, and he would meet their financial needs as they ministered. And they said, well, where are we going to find a person like that? Well, anyway, long story short, I stepped up and I said, I'll do it. And in the beginning, folks, I preached being born again, and I preached, biblical things and all that. They actually, some of them said, why are you saying all that stuff about salvation and being born again? We don't want to hear that. That's not the kind of church we are. And two of the elders told me in a discussion one time I had with them, they said, this has always been just a social club, and we have a religious service on Sunday, can you do that? And I said, so you want like a chaplain, not a real pastor? And they said, yeah, that'd be good, a chaplain. I said, that's not what I do, Anyway, it's a long story, but I've been there a year now, and I preach the gospel to them. You all that know me, you know how I preach, what I teach and stuff. I have two classes a week that I do. I'm teaching through Acts. Some of you see my stuff. I put it on Facebook or I put it on my website. So some of you know what I'm teaching. I'm teaching all kind of stuff. But I'm preaching, like right now, I'm preaching the Life of Christ series that I preached in Jesus Chapel. But I'm tweaking it. It's better. I'm teaching them about Jesus. People are telling me, we've never heard this stuff. One lady said, I've been in church. I'm 90 years old. I've been in church since I was 2. You're teaching me more in a few months than I've learned in all those years. So, I gained favor with them over the time period I've been there. We've butted heads a lot, and many times I told them I'd leave. But they say, don't leave, don't leave. Well, they just really don't have enough money to be paying me, okay? And so that's why I'm coming to you. I'm trying to raise support. I've been connecting with this denomination down here called Converge. I've had some good interactions with them, and the denominational leader told me, Warren, you got to raise support to do this. You're like a missionary. And I said, really? He says, yeah. And I said, well, I used to do that, but I lost all my contacts. Anyway, that's why I'm coming to you to see if you'd pray about it and see if maybe you could help me to continue doing what I'm doing there. But there's another thing that's going on that I want to share with you. Two other things. Okay, so while I'm pastoring this elderly group that's really dwindled down, like we're in the 20s now, 20-some people because of COVID and all that. We were 40, now we're 20. They're the most vulnerable population. They're afraid of coming to church. I did it on Facebook, and I also did a drive-in service so they could just come in their cars. Now I'm back to preaching inside, but it's only 20-some people. But anyway, we got this beautiful sanctuary. 700 people fit in there. We got this beautiful fellowship hall. 300 fit in there. We got a full-on commercial kitchen. We got beautiful grass lots where we could have, hundreds of people park, right? So anyway, I'm working with them. And then I start going door to door doing a little evangelism just before COVID. So I meet this young mother, and she's Salvadoreña. She doesn't speak English, so I'm witnessing to her. And then she said, can I come to your church? And I said, well, it's all English, She came one Sunday, but of course I had to translate everything for her. And she's a lot younger. These are all old people. She's like in her 20s. So right next door was a Jewish synagogue, and a Spanish church was meeting in there. So I connected her with them, but then I also connected her with this other one about a mile down the road. Well, that church, the leader guy there contacted me and said, so you want to bring this young lady? I said, yeah, would you help her? And he says, can I have lunch with you? So he takes me to lunch, and he says, would you preach for me? And so it turns out he's the founding pastor, but he's been separated from his wife for 4 years. So he can't pastor now. He doesn't feel that he could be the pastor. So he had me preach for him a few times, and then he just says to me one day, could you be the pastor here? So I was like, oh my gosh, what a surprise. But, well, okay. I said, yeah. So I got that too. That's just a mile apart. So it's like, to me, it's just I do 2 services on Sunday, one in English, one in Spanish. But to me, it's like one church. And I've even had great talks with this guy about, could we come together some way? Maybe you guys come down to our building or whatever. That's all in future, but we're talking about it, we're thinking about it. So anyway, what I'm saying to you is God has opened these doors for me, and he's given me a lot of different confirmations that I'm supposed to be here. And like just all kind of little things. I could tell you a whole thing one time, spend the time, and I don't want to spend the time on this video. But I could tell you the history of it. It's pretty cool because I'm not a guy that says God told me this or God told me that, but he showed me a lot of different things that have kept me here. And by the way, so a couple of weeks ago, this Puerto Rican woman came to me, and she works for a crisis pregnancy center. She wanted to know if we could open our doors to let them do a clinic once a month, just for the area, because there's nothing in the area. And I said, absolutely. And she said that her mom goes to the Spanish church where I'm preaching, and she starts crying, and she tells me, my mom is talking about spiritual things since you've been there. I can't tell you what it means. And she's just crying, and it really touched me. And then she said to me, you're a lighthouse. You're a lighthouse in this community. Well, you see that picture back there? I have pictures of lighthouses everywhere in my house. I got a great big one that's out in the living room that used to be behind my desk in El Paso. Because years ago, I had this prophet came to this church I was in when I was a young man. And they invited him to preach, and he got up to preach, and he said, before I speak, folks, I was just going to bring a message today, but God won't let me. You there, young man, stand to your feet. God has a word for you. And he starts prophesying over me that I'm a lighthouse to sit by the sea. I have that prophecy transcribed. It's in writing. It's in my files right here at my desk, that I'm supposed to be a lighthouse. And so I have all these lighthouses everywhere. And in this room, there's another one over there. I got lots of pictures of lighthouses. I got little, model ones and stuff. On my website, I have a lighthouse. I was there at Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia, but that's a lighthouse because I got that word. So I'm here in this community, and there's all these elderly people that don't know the Lord. They come from New England and stuff, and they come from all these traditional churches, and they don't really know the Lord. And so I got this opportunity to reach them, but there's not enough money to pay for me to make a living. And then there's Hispanic people too. And in my community where I live, there's folks with money, but then there's a whole area where the church is actually at that's like Northeast El Paso. It's very poor and struggling. There's crack addicts and meth people and crime and young people that are lost, So I got a real mix. I don't know how many Hispanics are around here. I just got a little group of like 20 right now, but I want to reach them too. So here's the thing. I'm asking you, would you pray about supporting us? We can't get enough money from the folks, and it might take quite a while to build these churches up where they could pay us enough to live, but we got to make it here. I have a $60,000, student loan debt. Of course, I'm older, I have some medical stuff, and all VA mostly covers it, but we need help. So I'm just asking, would you pray about it? Would you see if God would say to you, yeah, we'll help you? I mean, we'll give you 10 a month, or we'll give you 20 a month, 5 a month, 50 a month, 500 a month, whatever God tells you. And listen, I'm a pastor of these churches, so I get appeals for finances all the time. People don't know I just have these little poor churches. There's no money to give to missions and stuff. But I get appeals. I get hit up all the time for money, so I know what it's like. And if you can't or you don't feel led, please, no problem. I don't want to put anything on you. I understand what it's like. I can't give. People ask me to give and I just can't, or sometimes I don't feel led. That's not a ministry I really want to support. If that's the case with you, I won't think anything less of you. But if you could help us, we sure do need it. And so you just would you can give through my church. I have a PayPal thing. You can just click there at the church website, or my own website will soon have PayPal on it. You can just give there. If you need tax deduction receipts and stuff, we can work on that. But right now, I mean, you can, if you don't have to itemize and line item your donations, you can just give that way through Beverly Hills Community Church, or through my website, apolloswannabe.com, hwarrenhoyt.com. And so, you could give that way very easily every month, just clicking. Of course, they take 3% out, but it takes care of the administration, and the donations would come to me. So you could do that. I'll give you the information. I'll put it on the bottom here, and also at the end, you'll see it. And if you can't do that, would you just pray for us? Because we're really missionaries again here in America, in the jungles of West Central Florida, and we need help. One more thing I just want to add before I close, and that is I'm working on the website, and I want to have a series of teachings that I've done over the years offered there, so people can come there and you can listen to my stuff on apologetics or on evangelism or books of the Bible and my sermons from Sundays. I put them there, both Spanish and English. That's hwarrenhoyt.com. So again, your support can also help me with that, because I believe that has great potential. I'm not reaching that many yet. You could help me by, clicking that and liking it and sharing it and such. And you could help by giving, because I want to see that develop. I got things like, this microphone here, and I have to buy cameras, and I need different lights and so on. If you could help me, that would go. Money would go for that as well. So the the online presence, which I think has great potential, even internationally. And then 2 little churches that I may be able to meld into one. I'm not sure yet. If you could help us, we just so appreciate it. Thanks for spending this time with me and just listening to this long appeal. And whatever you do, if you give or you don't give, we do consider you friends. We do thank you for being our friends over the years, and for those of you who have given over the years, and words can never express all the thanks for your faithfulness and your generosity in helping us. So thanks for giving me this time. God bless you, and I hope to hear from you soon.